This video actually has nothing to do with money. The Air Force has given me a ton of awesome experiences throughout my short career, and today I want to share one of those with you that I recently had. I won an award at work, and I was fortunate enough to be able to take a ride in the T-38, which is the Air Force's jet trainer for pilots that'll go on to fly fighters or bombers after pilot training. We have T-38s at Langley to act as adversaries for the F-22 squadrons that we have here. Because the T-38 is a two-seat aircraft, the squadron and operations group have come up with an awesome program where they allow members to be submitted to get a familiarization flight in the back seat of one while it's on a normal mission to kind of see what that's like and sometimes to decide whether or not they want to be a pilot in the future. I'm going to try to get all the terminology right, but if you're a pilot or maintainer and you see me do something wrong, please feel free to ridicule me in the comments. I try not to film in uniform on this channel, but in this case it was unavoidable given the activities that we're participating in. Just remember that this is my own personal experience, and the opinions that I express here do not reflect those of the United States Air Force in any way. The T-38A is a supersonic capable jet trainer, first built in 1961 and in production until 1972. In other words, this aircraft is old enough to be my father. Because it's an ejection seat aircraft, there are a few extra requirements that you need to fulfill before you can actually go and take your ride. The week before my flight, I went to the flight surgeon just to get checked out and get a little flight physical to make sure I was the right size for the ejection seat and to ensure that if there was any reason we did have to eject, it wouldn't cause any long-term damage or consequences in the future. The week of the flight, I attended a morning of training where we learned about things like cockpit procedures and ejection seat procedures, the equipment we would be using, the physiological effects of pulling G's and wearing an oxygen mask, and post-ejection survival techniques. All the people that taught us these classes were extremely professional and taking extra time out of their day, and they really knew their stuff. And I felt extremely prepared that if anything did happen, I would know exactly what I needed to do and would be able to eject and survive with no issues. That day, we also went over to the aircrew flight equipment section at the T-38 squadron to get fitted for a helmet, G-suit, flight suit, and in my case, flight boots, because the boots that I wear on a day-to-day basis are not flame retardant and not safe to fly with. It takes 20 to 30 minutes alone just to fit a G-suit, and they do this every single week for new FAM flight candidates. I really appreciate their dedication and professionalism. They were awesome, and this program adds to their workload and is not part of their primary mission. But they do it every day with a smile, and I can't thank them enough for that. After I got my gear fitted, I headed over to the squadron and got scheduled to fly the very next day. Today's the day. Here we go. I headed to work, did a few emails and other administrative things at my office beforehand, and then drove over to the T-38 squadron.
All right, just got to the squadron, so gonna head inside, find the bar, do the briefing, and then go get changed and step to the jet.
This is a T-38 that needs to go to depot but is not capable of flying there, so they're getting ready to ship it on a truck to the depot instead. The black objects on this rack are the travel pods that they hang underneath the T-38 when it goes cross-country to different airports so that the pilots can have somewhere to carry their luggage and other stuff they might need to bring, just because there's no dedicated cargo space in the T-38. The Heritage Room at the T-38 squadron also acts as their briefing room. They've got a big version of their Langley Aggressors patch hanging on the wall. This is the knee board that we briefed off of. I don't know what a lot of the material on here means, but you can see our call sign, minimum fuel info, important radio frequencies, alternate airfield fuel minimums, and mission specifics. It also includes a map of the airspace where we'll be executing the mission. Following the mission briefing, my pilot Kadam and I just reviewed cockpit etiquette and ejection seat procedures one last time, then we headed downstairs to the step desk.
Pattern's open, it's beautiful outside. Birds, I checked them earlier this morning, they were low. I think one of the soar models.
Because I had to change into my flight suit and wasn't super familiar with all the equipment, it took me a few minutes longer than it should have to get dressed. Both Kadam, my pilot, and Meteor, our wingman, were very patient with me during this whole process, and I am super grateful to them for that. On more modern fighter aircraft, the parachute is built into the ejection seat. However, on the T-38A, you have to carry your parachute with you out to the plane, and there's essentially a big void in the backrest of the seat where the parachute just sits behind you. Getting strapped in is a pretty big ordeal, and I was very grateful to have one of the maintainers help me with all the buckles that I couldn't see or reach very easily. Of course, the moment that I got strapped in and they handed me my helmet bag, I immediately dropped my GoPro underneath the seat. If you're not familiar with fighter aircraft maintenance, foreign objects floating around in the cockpit are a huge no-no, and this is a grounding condition, meaning that we could not fly that aircraft if there was foreign objects loose in the cockpit. So I had to spend an additional 5 minutes getting unstrapped and using a mirror provided by the maintainers to fish out my GoPro from underneath the seat. Everybody was very patient with me throughout this whole experience, and again, I'm so grateful to all of them and grateful that they, persisted with the flight and persisted with trying to get us up in the air because I definitely made some mistakes. This is me smiling through the embarrassment of causing a late takeoff as a maintenance officer. T-38s do not have an APU, so they are unable to start their own engines themselves. So they are started with a start cart, which provides pressurized air to the engines to get them spinning fast enough that they can crank and become self-sustaining on startup. This jet is so loud that you have to wear earplugs inside of your ears underneath your helmet headphones, which was one thing that really surprised me. Here you can see the number 2 engine is already idling as we start the number 1 engine and the temperature and RPMs come up. Then we checked the flight controls. After that, it was a pretty quick taxi and takeoff. After takeoff, Jasper Flight climbed to our transit altitude and headed towards the airspace. Cadam let me take the stick for a few minutes on the way out, and Jasper 2 was on our left wing the whole time. I didn't actually get any footage during the mission because I was afraid of dropping my phone during unexpected maneuvers. After we finished up our mission, we spent some time pulling G's and seeing local sights low and fast, which was an awesome experience. This dial just to the right of the gear handle is the G meter, and we pulled just under 5 G's at our highest point during the flight. I tried to lift my legs off the floor of the cockpit during some of our high G turns, and I was not able to move them at all. I have a lot of respect for fighter pilots who are able to control the aircraft while also dealing with these types of forces at the same time. It was tough enough for me as a passenger just keeping my hands on my lap. I didn't black out or throw up at any point, but I did feel my vision going gray for a little bit during one of our longer turns, and I went to 100% oxygen on my regulator a couple times when I was feeling woozy, which really helped. Just in case, I had taken my air sickness bag out of its envelope and tucked it under my kneeboard strap on the top of my thigh. And I would highly recommend this to anyone who's going on a familiarization flight in any type of fighter aircraft, because when you're in the cockpit and you feel like you need to throw up, you're not going to want to be digging around in the storage to find that bag. We headed back toward Langley, and on the way we conducted a battle damage check using only wing rocks and hand signals. Jasper 2 surveyed us first. Then we took a look at him from all angles, looking for any leaks, smoke, holes, or anything else that could indicate damage to the aircraft. Cadam let me fly a bit more as we approached the James River, then took the stick back for the final approach. You can see Newport News Airport at our 10 o'clock and Langley Field almost right in front of us. Off to our right was Naval Station Norfolk and the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, which I use to get to work every day. We initially overflew the field and made a right turn on our downwind leg for our first landing, which would be a touch and go. As soon as our wheels touched the ground, Cadam pushed the throttles up and we were back in the air before the last touchdown marking. I caught our shadow following us down on the water on our last downwind leg. We also got a great view of the Hampton Coliseum, which is a local event venue. Because the T-38 has such a high landing speed and no thrust reversers, slowing down after landing can take quite a long time. We had a Raptor fly right over us as we were decelerating, which was pretty cool. The air conditioning on the T-38 doesn't really work on the ground, so we popped our canopies as soon as we turned onto the taxiway to get some fresh air flowing. We also safed our seats, since this seat requires you to be moving at least 50 knots in order for it to be safe to eject. If you experience an emergency on the ground, you just egress out of the cockpit to the ground rather than ejecting. We were welcomed back to our parking spot by the same awesome crew that launched us out. Hopefully, you can tell from my expression how awesome of an experience this was for me. There are so many people to thank for making this happen. I have had awesome leadership ever since I've been at Langley, and they supported me in winning the award that allowed me to qualify for this flight. My current leadership let me take the time to go to my flight physical, go to the training, and then take the morning for the actual flight. All the people who train and equip the fam flyers, especially the aircrew flight equipment folks at the 7th FTS. As I mentioned before, this is not a part of their primary mission and takes time out of their day. They were awesome the whole time anyway and did everything with a smile. The maintainers, who were so patient and helped me get buckled in twice after getting my camera out from under the seat. And finally, the 7th FTS, especially Catam and Meteor. I am super grateful for this experience. It showed me a bit of what pilots go through on a day-to-day basis, and definitely raised my level of respect for people on the operations side of the wing. It also reinforced that I am in the right job right now, and I would not want to do this on a daily basis. If you're a leader in a non-flying unit anywhere in the military, getting incentive flights for your personnel is a great way to motivate and reward them for their performance. We can't pay our members more, but we can certainly help them take advantage of programs like this if that's something they desire. I process a ton of incentive flight requests, and it never gets old because I know those members have worked super hard to earn that flight. If you made it this far and liked this video, hit that thumbs up button and let me know in the comments what you want to see more of. Thanks for watching. See ya!